dude.
So how nervous are you right now to record this episode?
I didn't even
I'm not ready.
You're not ready? Allison, you're pretty nervous?
Yeah, I'm not good. I know you are.
Well, let me just let you in on a quick secret. Welcome back to the basement where it's top level content from the lower level. What we done was we hit the record button and he doesn't even know it. So now he's in the middle of an episode. So this is my sister-in-law, Megan. This is my brother, Terry. What we're going to do today is we're going to talk about some conspiracy theories that you guys actually loved before. I hope the mics are picking me up and I'm not being hit on both these mics. But he's bringing us some conspiracy theories that he's going to talk a little bit about. We're going to talk a little bit about it. And he's got quite a bit here. Which one do you want to start with first? First off, how do you guys want to talk about conspiracy theories?
Hey, you know how I am on conspiracy. I'm all in.
Absolutely. Words are hard.
I don't know what he just said. However, one conspiracy theory that I have a burning question for real quick is which one of you guys pooped your pants?
It wasn't
me, dude.
I think it was you.
Are you sure you're not spelling propane?
Dude, it might be propane, or it might be the Sir Stroming still on our tripod.
Maybe it's a combination of the two.
It is. Anyways, Terry, what are we talking about?
I think we're going to touch a little bit about Antarctica today.
Antarctica.
Yeah, so
Where polar bears are.
I got a couple
I've
different
heard
things talking about Antarctica. And
I've heard a couple of things about it too.
There's
Trying to
once you
sleep.
open up that rabbit hole, you can fall in for very long ways. There's all kinds of different conspiracies. Some that make sense, a lot of them that don't. But I grabbed a couple that kind of sparked more of an interest. So the first one we'll talk about is a Nazi secret base that was located in Antarctica. Of course, this was pre-World War II, back with still Hitler running the Nazi regime and whatnot.
So
back in second.
Nobody's allowed to claim land in Antarctica, right?
No, there's a treaty, and I don't know much about the treaty that's going on with it. Most of that's above their pay grade.
So nobody's allowed to claim land in Antarctica for war reasons. However, there are multiple countries that don't necessarily have a stake in it, but they have a claim to the land that they're on for research purposes.
I got you.
Don't they have like numerous research bases set up down there?
Yes, but Antarctica is essentially a no war zone. You can't do any wartime.
I mean, I don't know anybody that would want to have war down there.
Yeah,
Well, we need to let the polar bears know that because they be wrecking everything.
Actually became one of the hottest tourist attractions in the world right now. Like, there's thousands of people that go on the cruises and everything.
Yeah, I saw Titanic and I saw what an iceberg.
I saw that documentary.
Ironic. We're going to talk about the Titanic later tonight, hopefully, if we can make it that far. So let's hear it. What we got? The Nazi secret base in Antarctica.
Okay, yeah, so back in 1938, there was a Nazi expedition to Antarctica. The conspiracy theory behind that was they were there to do things for war, research, all this other stuff. The claim was they sent a bunch of warships and a bunch of research ships out there to do research and whatnot. Another claim is that while they were there, they found a bunch of underground caves full of rivers, lakes, fresh water. So they turned all these caves into like bases, essentially. And in these bases, they found alien technology, which they used to manipulate it for weapons and tested weapons there. Of course, we all know that there's no evidence of any kind of weapon testing in Antarctica at all, as far as we know, that we're allowed to know. That's the claims that the theorists have.
Yes.
Nazis had a base there. They found alien technology. They used it to create weapons. And then,
well,
go ahead.
To be fair, I like history a whole lot. Nazi Germany was well far advanced in rocketry than any country was. We, after World War II, America and the Soviet Union, going into one of our other episodes that we actually had, I wouldn't say kidnapped their engineers and scientists and everything, but we pretty much persuaded them, like, hey, you want to come work for America?
Acquired.
Acquired, or you could go to Nuremberg and go to trial,
Right?
Or you can come work for us. So that may very well be.
Is that why? That may have been one of the hidden reasons behind the Cold War too.
Yeah.
Maybe we were fighting over their engineers.
Could be.
It's fighting over the alien technology, but we made it out like it was the space race.
Well, here's my question: is there's no evidence of the testing, but who's to say the alien technology they found would leave any evidence?
That's true. That.
Yeah, how will we? We never know. They don't tell us anything. If they're telling us something, it's because they want us to
not pay attention to something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Well.
So
don't kick the door in. It wasn't me that said that.
All right, but after research and whatnot, the truth is there was only one Nazi ship sent there, and it was to look for new hunting grounds for whales. Is what it was for. It was just researching for a new hunting ground. So they say.
So who said that though? Which side? Because history is told by who?
The ones who write it.
The victors. And who won?
Well, you already know that.
America, Britain, or Great Britain, Soviet Union. And we're all hating on each other at that time. Well, right. Great Britain really wasn't. They were kind of thankful for us, both sides. But we were all hating on each other, so we're like, but at the same time, I feel like there's more to the Cold War than what we think.
Oh, there's I'm sure there's more to every war we've been into than what we're allowed to know. Exactly.
But, with Antarctica, I mean, you hear so many, I mean, you can go into that flat Earth conspiracy theory.
Well,
are we leading into that?
Not fully, because that's a whole new...
Yes, it is.
That's a different
the ice wall.
That's completely different beast. We're going to touch base a little bit into that, but going to that would be episode on episode on episode if you're going.
Yeah, I think there are like full just podcasts dedicated.
There is.
It's unreal. So I touched a little bit of base, just kind of mentioned that Antarctica doesn't exist at all. So the South Pole is not in a continent. It's an ice wall, and that's the South Pole.
Well, the thing is,
as far as I was willing to go with it, because like I said, it just goes and goes and goes.
I mean, the majority of the world, we all study, I don't know the name of the map, but we all studied the same map in school. And come to find out, now we're kind of like, that map is not right at all, considering that Africa is massive, whereas North America is not as massive. I mean, it's massive,
right,
but not as. So how are we to know what's on that map and what's not?
The proportions are not right. Yeah.
Because, we don't know. We don't know what we're told. I mean, at one time, you literally had people on ships thought that there were mermaids, and they're saying now it's manatees or sea cows. I'm not sure how they confuse that. But
that kind of brings into question, too, a lot of the older maps that people made and people used to try to go into the ice wall and flat Earth and things. I mean, they were putting sea monsters in areas that they didn't know. Who's to say that they weren't just drawing that wall out there because they didn't know what was there? They weren't putting, there's one that has all of these, tropical animals and things out past Antarctica.
Yeah.
But who's to say that they weren't just drawing things because they didn't know what was out there because they hadn't discovered what was out there yet?
They were just getting paid and paid and paid.
Right. As long as they came back something.
Yeah, they just had to come back with something.
Right.
Because, the king wasn't getting out on that ship and sailing out there to verify what they said was the truth. It was, I paid this person a lot of money. They told me this is the truth. This is the truth.
Right. Yeah.
One thing I've learned down in the riverbank, though, is that us three would have been horrible sailors back then. Because we was in the middle of doing a live podcast, and a flock of ducks walked by. Me and Drew was like, flew by. We was like, wow, there's ducks. We'd have never made it to our destination. We were like, we got to chase them.
We got to see where they're going.
Follow the dolphins.
Yeah, follow the dolphins and see what they're all about. Meanwhile, they're just following us, trying to get the stuff we drop off the boat. But sorry to interrupt you, but what are we hitting on next?
The next one with Antarctica is, remember 2016 when they found the pyramids? There's 3 pyramids that resemble a lot like what's over in Egypt.
Yeah.
Okay, so the claim is that those are pyramids that were built 100 million years ago. That's the claim that theorists are taking. They're saying that it was an ancient civilization that lived there, built these pyramids the same way as over in Egypt, and it's all covered up with the ice cap. So all the snow and the permafrost and all that on top of it is covered. That's the claim that they're making, which we'll touch a little bit more on that with the claim that Atlantis is hidden under Antarctica as well, which is a little further on a different part of that. That's the claim that they're saying is ancient civilizations built more pyramids in other parts of the world.
Ooh.
Antarctica.
Central America.
Aliens?
Aliens.
I mean,
You got Central America has the same pyramids too,
Right. But
facing the same orientation.
But the difference with these pyramids is the peak that's visible is 4,000 feet. The rest that is not visible makes the ones in Egypt look small. So the manpower and the resources in that area to be able to create something of such magnitude is simply not possible, is what the experts are saying. That and the earliest record of humans was 2 million years ago.
Yeah.
So how are
aliens.
right aliens?
You gotta do it like this.
Aliens.
Aliens. This dude off of Ancient Aliens.
Yeah, right.
But, you know, when you see that, you brought up that pyramids being that big, but it's in like multiple different areas. I mean, you got them in Egypt, you got them in Antarctica, you got them in Central America. I think there's another set of pyramids somewhere. But they're all facing the exact same way in the same orientation.
Right, yeah.
So how's that happen?
Conspiracy.
It is. It's a conspiracy. What do you think, Drew?
Man, I don't know. I'm just listening. I'm trying to take it all in.
With this one, I don't believe that they're pyramids. With the area that they're in, we know it's been frozen for millions of years. With scientists more believe that it is their horn mountains, and a horn mountain is a mountain that's covered in ice, and as it starts to melt, water runoff, and it creates these slopes. That's all it is. That's what I lean more towards on this one. But I found it interesting because, like you said, they're positioned same areas as Egypt and Central America. You said.
There's somewhere else I can't remember.
They're just all the similarities are right there. It's just the area that it's in just kind of makes it hard to believe, unless it was aliens.
Or you do know who lives in Antarctica, right? According to Godzilla and the Monarch series, that is where King Ghidorah lives.
That is true. So, I mean, we really can't rule it out.
Yeah.
Can't rule out anything.
Absolutely.
That's my thing. I like some Godzilla. Aliens.
Did you see what I put on the thumbnail of our UFO episode? It was at the very top. It said the guy from Ancient Aliens is definitely an alien.
Oh, he'd have to be.
He has to be.
Or no, is it? Yeah, it's Ancient Aliens.
He's trying to tell us, and we're not listening. We're laughing.
He's like, I've been trying to tell these. Kind of reminds me of I know you don't watch this show, Drew. You don't like it. But Futurama, the alien news broadcaster, he's like, I'm trying to tell you we're going to destroy you. Been trying to tell these humans forever.
They don't listen. They just laugh at my hair. They call me crazy. I'm letting them know what's going on.
Yeah. But another funny thing about those pyramids is I went on Google Maps, and on Antarctica you can pull up the 3D view and you can see
what they want you to see.
Exactly. But where the location of these pyramids are, no longer visible.
Is it like how they do with military bases where it's just giant grayed out circles or whatever?
It was white blurred out. I mean, you couldn't even. Normally, you can see snow. You can tell that it's a snow-covered area. It was just you couldn't tell. You couldn't see. The only thing you could really see was the outer coastline, really, with some of the bases that they got. You couldn't zoom in on the bases, but you could see where they were. But that's as far as it goes. So my question: if they're not pyramids, which I don't believe that they are, but if they're not, or if they are, why are we hiding them? Why do they need to be hidden now that they were? If they're just mountains, why would it matter?
Right. That's very true. It's very true. But I mean, at the same time, man, we all work in certain positions, or have worked in certain positions where stuff is hidden. Oh, that makes no sense. Like, okay, well, how are we hiding that? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I worked in one area of this. I had to have a top secret clearance to build this transformer house. But the whole bay door was open the entire time we was building it. So I'm like, what? Why am I hiding this? Like, the door's open. All you
Why
gotta
do
do
I need to clearance the building when anybody can walk by and see it?
Right, that's the stuff I'm talking about. Like, that make no sense.
Yeah.
But I had to have the top secret clearance to walk over there and install the air conditioning ducts for all these computer drives for it to go all the way to Nevada. That's all I knew.
I was going to Area 51 for sure.
It was a building that took, you're a truck driver. Some semi-trucks, some trailers where you actually have somebody on the back of the trailer steering it.
Yeah.
That was how big that building was.
Nice.
And it was nothing filled with completely computer drives. And there was a ductwork, air conditioned ductwork that I could set up in Indian style in there. Throughout the entire building. Sorry to get off the track. We do that a lot here at the basement. Do what?
Was to make sure they stayed nice
It
and cold.
stayed ice cold. Yes, the entire time. And it was all I knew was it was going to Nevada. And as soon as I got done building this, they laid me off. So.
You had to have a security clearance, that way if something happened to it, they had somebody to blame.
Pretty much. I'm still here. So everything went right.
So far.
I was gonna say for now.
Until after this episode. Before we jump into that real quick, we kind of hit on something real quick, the conspiracy theory. Why are they hiding stuff? I don't think they are hiding it from us.
What do you mean?
I think, we talked about this before, all of us have. They're showing us in movies the reality.
Oh, yeah.
And they're normalizing it to us. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I think, man. That's the conspiracy that I will die on, that they're telling us the real reality of the situation in Hollywood movies.
Very
You
possible.
really can't rule it out.
We did have a Hollywood actor as president.
So does Ukraine. Except
Their
he's...
president now is on a reality TV.
Yes. Yes. So we'll move on from the politics side of it, because I know there's people on there in the comments going to get angry now. All three of you.
Yeah, three, because two of us.
The main conspiracy we need to talk about is why y'all watching and not hitting subscribe? I see you. I know who you are. I'm
We
looking
see
at
how
you.
many views we get.
Yeah, 47% of the people watching our videos is not hitting that subscribe button. I see you. Hit the subscribe button. Hit forgot password, Drew, right? If you got your password, hit forgot password.
Yeah.
Enter, here's a password for you. #basement1. There you go. There's your new password. Alright, sorry, go ahead.
So y'all got any more questions about the pyramids?
No.
All right. So the next one we're going to touch a little bit on. It'll be this is kind of a little bit more with the ancient civilization, but this is Atlantis is hidden under Antarctica. And this claim is being made by historian Charles Hapgood back in 1950.
Well, you know he's smart. He got a weird name.
Yeah, right. The more screwed up the name is, the smarter they are.
Especially if their first name's Charles. Like,
Yeah. You know he was smart.
Because he doesn't go by Chuck.
If it went by Chuck, I wouldn't even pick this one.
Yeah. That would sound like somebody from Lockhart just saying,
You're out of Overtown here.
But no, he's also claiming that there's ancient civilization there, but it was with Atlantis. This is not 100 million years ago, but more like 11,600 years ago, from 1950. Because his claim was there wasn't as much ice in a lot of Antarctica as there is now. Find that hard to believe.
Okay, could possibly.
Could be. They're also saying that out in the continent, there's areas where there's green land, warm, fresh water. Who's to say there's not? We're not allowed to know either way it goes.
Well, I mean, the add to that is we don't know, because, I mean, how many times was we in our backyard on top of a daggum mountain in West Virginia where you're digging and you dig up seashells?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Like, every time it rained, that one bank behind the house, you see seashells just laying there. Like, where'd that go from?
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but if the global warming is a thing, then eventually all this stuff is going to come.
It's going to come to light. So, if global warming is as pushed as advanced as they say it is, and we're further down the road than what they're saying we are, we're going to see all the aliens and the ancient civilizations that are there, if any.
All I know is from our studies and conspiracy theories and folklore is if Mothman shows up, you need to leave that area.
I feel like if you
Real that good quick.
too
Real that good quick.
Yeah, you don't know which direction to run. You know you got to run, but
Wherever he tells you, wherever he's chasing you from, that's where you run away from.
Right, yeah.
Sorry. So we talking about Atlantis and Antarctica.
Yeah. So Charles Hapgood's claiming that there was ancient civilizations there, and of course theorists are going to jump on board with that and push it a little further.
Right.
So, it's Atlantis. That's where Atlantis is. Of course, if if it ain't in the Bermuda Triangle, it's got to be in Antarctica. So I mean, it only makes sense, right?
Yeah.
I can see that.
Right. Yeah. So that's how they push that. More on that is another claim from a Graham Hancock, which is an author that wrote a book in 1995, and his study was on fingerprints of the gods. And he did a lot of studies with Atlantis and whatnot, and his claim is kind of on board with Charles that they are stable. They were civilized in Antarctica, and a lot of them had migrated down and searched for the Aztec, the Mayan, and the Egyptian empires. On the expert claim to that, and the only thing I could find anything about was statements from our government and the United Nations. How ironic, right?
Right.
So there wasn't. So essentially, all it says is that's all crap. It is all I said, and
Naturally.
that's all the rebuttal I can get from is it's not true.
Yeah,
From-
which usually means it's probably
is.
true.
at the very least, there's some.
There might be some truth behind what's being going on. Is it Atlantis? We don't know because nobody knows where it's at.
I have
Is it-
learned that working in the profession I work in, usually when somebody looks at you and they hit you with facts and your answer is, that's crazy. Because they're right, and you just like, that's crazy, man.
Nah, that ain't.
Oh, shoot. Who told you that? These old things?
Not sure what you're talking about.
Right? We've all worked in government type jobs. We know.
Some of us had to get certain clearances for certain things.
Yeah, right. Some of us are bound to social media contracts.
Okay. And then the last one with Antarctica we're going to touch on is it just doesn't exist at all. It don't exist.
Which is like possible considering, I mean, you said there, go there now. But how do we know that's Antarctica?
Well, what else is it going to be? If there's.
How do we know it is?
This
Could just
is
be
where the
ice.
flat earthers come involved in. The Antarctica you're seeing is nothing more than the ice wall. Because there's only one area of Antarctica that, or two areas I believe that you're allowed to go on these cruise ships and voyages. And it's one of them a peninsula that hangs out, and there's another one a little further up coast. So there's only two places on this large continent that you're allowed to see. How much more are you not seeing, and how much is missed? Exactly. Why is it? You can go to these, but you're only going to one spot, and that's it.
So then where? Have you ever saw that person on TikTok that works at the base there, and they always make the TikToks when they run outside? So where are they really at?
My question is,
Hollywood.
and I don't know, man, if it's not really conspiracy. It has to do with Antarctica. If there's so huge of a continent, and there's so many seals and penguins and all these animals there,
Polar bears.
why are polar bears becoming extinct if there's no natural threat?
Yeah. The only threat polar bears really have is starvation.
And us,
But we're not there.
allegedly. Because we're the apex predator.
True.
So,
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot hunting.
Well, I mean,
Drew knows how to pull in them Bigfoot women. you just hit that stick off a tree, and they come flying at you in the woods.
you got to bury bonds.
That was an inside joke.
Yeah, I heard it on the previous episode.
Yeah.
He looks like something I heard was.
Oh, Lord. But, as always with the basement, You never fact check us. You just listen.
We listen and we don't judge.
You judge, especially that guy.
It's always Hunter.
It's always Hunter.
I do have to say, doesn't Andrew look nice in his almost Carolina blue jacket?
Yep.
Oh, man.
Well, this is in honor. I love sitting on the couch, which is ironically what the Tar Heels are doing now. While Duke is still in the tournament.
Where was the view at?
We're transitioning to a new coach right now, sir. We need time to think about it.
Listen, I don't want to hear nothing
What were you
from
on?
somebody
We're a little
who
salty
never
right now.
come into a big game.
Ooh, shit. He's a Tar Heel fan too.
Yeah, basketball, I'm a Tar Heel fan.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we just don't talk football.
Terrible choices, sir.
I know, man. He must have been dropped on his head or something.
I'm a glutton for punishment.
Obviously.
Okay, sorry.
So Antarctica does not exist. And you said flat earthers are really into this. You know who
That's the most common with flat earthers is that it doesn't exist. The continent itself is the ice wall. And some of the claims that they use for their argument is there's a Captain Cook. I said Captain Hook. Captain Hook. Peter Pan over here lives there. No, Captain Cook made claims that he went on 3 different voyages there, and I don't have the date for that for some reason. Yay me. But he took 3 voyages there, and all 3 times that he went to separate areas, all he saw was 100 to 200 foot walls. All 3 times there was nowhere for him to dock his ship to get on board. He said they couldn't climb. Is his claims true? Who knows?
It could have just been where he landed on the continent. It just could have been like big.
I mean, it could have been just like the ice. Like it could have been where the iceberg broke.
Exactly, and who's not to say that this couldn't be a 2 mile long shelf that broke off?
Yeah,
So it would. I mean, you can go. Iceland has cliffs, 300 feet tall. Why couldn't Antarctica? If there's you have all this ice that's built up on it, it's going to build up, and if it does break off because of global warming, you're going to have a cliff that's 100, 200 feet tall.
Yep.
You know what's weird? This is off topic. Iceland is green, and Greenland is ice.
Yeah,
Isn't that weird?
Good little geography lesson.
So that was probably one of the first lessons in ADHD.
No,
human history.
The ducks earlier. Yeah, right? Yeah, I get what you're saying now.
Somebody got confused whenever they were naming the countries.
So what's going to happen is you're going to see somebody from, what was it, Denmark, scrolling through TikTok like, them Americans talking about my country again. They're Greenland.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
But now,
That
as
was a
far as
political joke.
the ice wall theory and stuff goes, isn't it like a no-fly zone down there too?
Oh yeah, it's a no fly and no sail zone. So
And I know
That
that's
means they're hiding something for sure.
yeah, that's like what they said. Like you can't even take drones there.
no.
Like they said that's a big thing because people have wanted to take drones because they see these giant ice walls, and they said that military planes will try to shoot down just a regular drone if it gets.
So why are the military planes even there?
You tell me.
So
Especially if there's supposed to be no wartime activity.
Shoot anything down.
So the ice walls are man-made. New conspiracy theory. I just made it up.
It was just cold down there, and
That's
so
part about conspiracy theories.
Yep.
You can put your own spin to it, put your own belief onto it, how you
hey,
feel about
maybe we
it.
got
And
like
who's to know that it's
a
not
secret tunnel that goes all the way from Area 51 down to Antarctica.
It's a long tunnel, man.
I mean, how long has Area 51 been a secret?
Maybe it's portal.
Maybe.
Maybe we do have the technology to go from one area to other through that tunnel. I mean, Elon Musk working on one right now with Tesla's cars going through that tunnel. I was to say that we don't have one already that's a lot faster and a lot quicker to move back and forth like that.
Here's a conspiracy. How did that surströmming get from Czechoslovakia to Memphis in one day? One night?
Because
Airplane.
nobody wanted to touch it. As soon as
They do it. This was like,
They put that on the F-16 and said, get that out of here.
Yeah.
nobody wanted it. They was afraid it was going to bust open on this.
Right.
That's called air travel, sir.
That's called something, buddy. That's top flight air travel. Hey, you remember I said top flight. You remember at the state tournament the other day on Captain the top flight security guard had his tight little security guard shirt on, and then he was just wearing sweatpants below here. He was like, he got called in halfway through his shift at the gym.
I could have grabbed him back his shirt, blew him off the balcony, and just turned it loose.
He was like, "I got good work. This is bull crap. I ain't gonna do nothing, so I'll put my Nikes on."
He's like, maybe they need to call me in. My alma mater gonna call me in.
Yeah, the breakaway patch. Sorry, we get sidetracked.
I know it.
What we looking at now? Oh, we still.
We're still a little bit on it. So the reason that we can't confirm about these 3 voyages, about these 200-foot cliff walls, is too much interference from the United Nations and our own government and other governments are, with the treaty and can't go there, no fly zone, no sail zone. So none of these claims that are out there can be confirmed or are confirmed, and it's not released. So either way it goes, everything they're saying about Antarctica that we went over is all speculation. So until the continent melts, we won't know.
Well, I'm going to say this on that. Anytime they try to hide or you not be able to go somewhere, they're hiding something.
They're hiding
100%. 100%.
Now, is it dealing with the continent itself? Maybe, maybe not. It might be something that they're doing, and that's the only place that they can do it without any kind of interference.
That's true.
Because, say, Area 51, right?
Sorry.
Am I boring you, sir?
No, it's 11:22 at night, and I'm old.
Yeah, we're still on pace though for one of our best finishes. So
yeah. No, sorry, y'all. I do that about this time every night. Do it not in here recording. But we just wanted to hit with something different today. They come down from North Carolina to bring us this nice. I don't know if it's called wall art, canvas. I don't know what to say. I'm not a proper person. Masterpiece. We are going to install lights on it. We do have the lights. We just don't have them yet. But what else you got here? Let's take a look. My man he did some research on here. He's got some stuff.
Let's fry their brains with.
I got one.
Fry their brains a little bit.
Well, hold on. Let's go through this one real quick.
Oh boy.
This one will be kind of close to our
Generation.
our generation here,
Right.
because it has been going on since 1996,
was you alive?
and that is the
That's the
big
year I was born.
question of who killed Tupac. Who do you think did it?
Diddy. Oh, Daddy.
I think it was Suge Knight.
Me too.
I think it was both of
So
them.
I have a little bit of information. First off, we'll go through a little bit of history that kind of goes into it. So Marion Suge Knight was a football player. He turned into a bouncer and a bodyguard. In 1998, it is said that he persuaded Vanilla Ice to sign over the royalties to Ice Ice Baby. He still has those royalties. He makes money off of it, and he used that money to found Death Row Records. So at that point, there were rumors going around that Suge was threatening other people in the business. It said that he took Jerry Heller, who was NWA's manager, and that he beat Eazy-E bloody to secure Dr. Dre to Death Row Records. He also got DOC and Michael A. I don't know, that was very
Michelet.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. Couldn't remember how to say that. But in 1995, Suge actually posted Tupac's $1.6 million bail to get him out of jail in exchange for Tupac signing with Death Row Records. He then released California Love, which is one of the biggest songs out there for him, and that started the Tupac-Biggie feud that was going on. At this point, Dr. Dre was getting aggravated with all the violence that was going on, so he decided to leave Death Row Records and start Aftermath. That's the factual things that happened. That's documented, all of that. But it's rumored that Dre and Tupac were on good terms and agreed with each other's frustrations with Suge, and Tupac was planning to leave Death Row Records to go to Aftermath with Dr. Dre. So even though Suge was in the car with Tupac, did he orchestrate what was going on because he's getting ready to leave Death Row Records?
Absolutely. That's the one that I'm gonna stick to, even though they put Keefy D in jail for it.
Well, they postponed his trial till at least 2026 now because they say they can prove that somebody else orchestrated it and that he only sold the gun.
Yeah, well, it was Suge because that was true. That Dr. Dre was taking Tupac with him because Snoop Dogg and Tupac were close. Dre and Snoop were close. Also, Dre and Tupac had became friends through Death Row Records. Everybody was tired of Suge's crap, more or less, and they were all going to bail on him. And he couldn't lose his cash cow, which was Tupac. So
it's kind of convenient. It's kind of convenient that all the shots that went into the car and Suge only had minor injuries, whereas Tupac laid in the hospital for 6 days, internally bleeding.
Yep. So what? Suge was grazed, right? Like in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then.
Well, I read one conspiracy where while the shooting was going on, they were shooting the car, and Suge Knight actually shot Tupac.
That's
Oh, sorry.
No, that's a theory on it as well.
Yeah,
but
I thought you said you was about to read it. Oh, my bad.
Oh, no. That's a theory on it as well, but it goes even further into it, saying that Suge possibly orchestrated Biggie's killing in response to Tupac's killing to cover up his involvement in Tupac's killing.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I still think Diddy did it, especially after seeing all the stuff that's come out about all the stuff that Diddy would do. I think that him and Suge, I think Diddy and Suge were working together to get them both killed.
Yeah,
I think that's very possible as well. I did not want to get into the Diddy rabbit hole, so I did not go into the Diddy rabbit hole because I'll be honest with you, I 100% believe this Suge had something to do with it. 100%. But not only that, I might be out on a limb here, but I feel like Suge had something to do with Eazy-E. Because we all know Eazy-E died from AIDS.
Mm-hmm.
But not a single one of his sexual partners have come out and said they have AIDS. This many years down the road, somebody would have found out something about somebody, and that would have been out. Not a single one of his children have been diagnosed with HIV or AIDS, one of which was born after he was already dead from the disease. Tamika Woods has never been diagnosed with AIDS.
And that was his long-term
relationship. He was in a long-standing relationship with him. However, Suge Knight has joked on multiple occasions about injecting people with laced blood and things like that. And then Suge went into their record, attacked Eazy-E, and even young Eazy has stated he believed that Suge injected him in that moment, and that's how he contracted HIV and AIDS.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I've never heard that one.
No, I hadn't either. But there's also the one where, I don't know if it's really a conspiracy theory or whatever. I never really heard it, but it was like like if you played the Tupac record backwards, it sounded like he said Suge shot me or whatever. But I mean.
Yeah, that's kind of like the Beatles if you play it back, or just like say Titanic or something.
Yeah.
What was the little Nicky that done it with Chicago?
Yeah.
Took Chicago back.
Well, it's one of those things that you started talking about the whole Eazy-E thing too. Going back to it, that was about the time that the NWA was actually working on things, and we were actually going to release like another record together.
Yeah.
Right at the same time.
Yeah, because
they probably would have, and they would have released it on Aftermath. So you're looking at Dre potentially having NWA, Tupac, and Snoop.
Oh, I mean
that's like a juggernaut of '90s artists.
Yeah,
nobody would be able to touch that.
That was right after like Ice Cube had went solo.
Yeah,
and like he had made the No Vaseline diss track to the guys of NWA, and then they had come around and like started speaking again and all this kind of stuff because when Dr. Dre released The Chronic on Death Row Records, it was right after that Suge Knight started stealing money from him. Is what they said, and that's what, and then of course, like you said, the violence, and Dre's not really about all that.
Yeah,
And
he's just about making
when I
music.
say that he persuaded Vanilla Ice, it is said that he hung Vanilla Ice over a banister by his ankles until he agreed to give him the royalties to that, and he supposedly kidnapped Jerry Heller and beat him with lead bats.
Dang.
And when he attacked Eazy-E, it drove Eazy-E, like, he hated Suge. I mean, it absolutely.
Well, actually,
yeah.
And even though Jerry Heller and Eazy-E had a falling out, Jerry Heller came out and said that he stopped Eazy-E from killing Suge multiple times.
And regrets it.
And regrets it. Because he 100% believes this shit had something to do with Eazy-E's death.
Have y'all ever seen the guy that they originally pinned the Tupac murder on, Orlando?
Mm-hmm.
They look enough alike to be twin brothers. That's crazy. Weird.
Well, I read one conspiracy that the car in the videos that you see Tupac and Suge leaving in is not the same car as the bullet holes in it. Because they started looking at the rims and the actual model. The rims were not the same.
Yeah.
So they said that something's not adding up here.
Well, let's hit the real big conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
Is he dead?
You don't know? I mean, is Michael Jackson dead?
I really feel like that, and I like Tupac as an artist, but I feel like as a rapper, especially during that time, he was all about flashy cars and this money and jewelry. I don't feel like he would have got himself out of the spotlight on purpose. You know what I mean? So I do lean toward him being dead, but then I seen that Dave Chappelle episode, you know, the one where they're in the club and it's Dave in there, and they start playing that song. I wrote this song a long time ago, and it's talking about the new Tupac song, and Dave's in there dancing. He's like, "What the hell?" And then he just keeps saying, "I wrote this song a long time ago." You never saw that episode? Oh man, you need to watch it.
But I mean, he did. There was like a bunch of stuff released after he died. Did he really? I mean, I don't know what artists do. I'm not a rapper. Did they go in and record thousands and thousands and thousands of songs and just never release them?
I think a lot of them do.
Yeah.
I mean, now most of them just release them as a mixtape. Like, so it's not released off of their label because, you know, they're in those contracts and all that stuff, and that starts getting complicated. So they'll release a bunch of songs that they like that, you know, their label may have said, like, kickback, and now they release them as mixtapes, whereas at that time it was they didn't really do mixtapes like that unless it was literally just recording it on an individual cassette or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like that there's a lot of artists, any kind of musician that has, you know, they're cutting a record and they have a ton of songs, you know, maybe 30 songs, and only, 12 to 15 actually make the cut.
Well, look at now, you know, we see all these anniversary albums come out, and they add these bonus tracks that were also recorded, like, during that time.
That's true.
Like, Linkin Park just did that. Whenever they re-released Hybrid Theory, they added about another 5 songs that Chester had recorded during that time that just didn't make the initial cut.
Speaking of, y'all, give that girl a break. No, she's not Chester Benning, but she's doing fine. Y'all just mad she's a female. I'll say it.
Look, I'm going to say
I think they just need to change the name.
I mean, I don't even mind the fact that she's female. Like, I mean, Chester's voice,
It's
could be
hard
okay.
because we have such that nostalgic feeling towards that band. Linkin Park was a lot of people's first introduction into rock music for the millennial generation.
Yeah.
So we do, and I have that nostalgia. I do, but she's not him. You have to listen to her as a different artist.
Well, my thing
and
is,
accept that they
well, we'll get into the conspiracy theories because there's actually a conspiracy theory about her. There's a conspiracy theory that Chester was already talking about leaving Linkin Park because the last album that they released, One More Light, had a lot of backlash, and you know he ended up killing himself right before they went on tour promoting that album. There's talks that she was already in line to replace him before that happened. And if you think about it, there was never a word around the music industry like about them looking for a singer. It was just they're talking about getting back together, and then all of a sudden they did this pop-up show, and she's the singer.
Yeah.
And her and Mike Shinoda had been very close, like the last few years, to the point to where people thought that they were almost in a relationship. Like that's how much time they were spending together, and all this right before Chester passed. So there was a conspiracy that she was already planning, that they were already planning replacing Chester with her, because he was already just more or less done with the band, and he wanted to move a different direction. They wanted to stay where they were. And so I'm not going to say, you know, anything about what happened to him.
Yeah.
But as far as all that stuff goes,
Kind of seemed a little bit pre-orchestrated.
I was about to say that whole Chester committing suicide thing is a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot into that.
Yeah.
A lot of celebrity deaths. I mean, you can make an episode or two out of any of them.
Right.
A lot of them. Brittany Murphy, Michael Jackson, all of them. I mean,
Michael Jackson, you could do a full series on.
you really could.
Hey, look, y'all say what you want, but the 80s Michael Jackson is amazing music.
Yeah,
I
absolutely
love it. And nothing like popping in back when we was growing up, playing some Vice City, riding on your little scooter with your Uzi, just shooting somebody down the street while you got Billie Jean playing. Just sitting there like, yeah.
Yep.
Trying to deliver pizzas. That one mission.
Yep.
Sitting there delivering pizzas, minding your business, just jamming, and then a stray bullet comes and kills your character. You're like, what the? Grand Theft Auto. Best times.
I've got two more. Do y'all want to try to have both, or do we want to try to do a deep dive into one?
Well, we are at 45 minutes, and we mentioned Titanic.
Alright.
So let's bring this one for next time because that's going to be a good one.
Yeah. This one might take a whole episode.
Yeah, that's going to be a good one because y'all going to have a lot of questions. It's going to fry you a little bit.
Don't fry me too much. I ain't so strong today.
You probably should have fried that.
Yeah, I probably would. I don't know. I don't know if there's any way
Just the title of this has already got me.
That may be an next episode we can talk about.
Yeah, that's a whole episode right there.
So,
Titanic.
Titanic was one of three ships that was commissioned by the White Star Line between 1911 and 1914. It was the RMS Olympic, the RMS Titanic, and the RMS Britannic. The Olympic was launched in June of 1911, and 3 months later, on September the 20th of 1911, she collided with the Royal Navy cruiser HMS Hawke, causing a large hole to be ripped in her left side, flooding 2 compartments and causing major damage to the propeller. This is the beginning of the actual conspiracy. Do you think it was the Titanic that sank, or do you think it was the Olympic?
I don't know.
Okay.
I do know one thing is there was a lot of rich people supposed to be on the Titanic that changed their ideas. But there was a lot of people that were rich that got on the Titanic that was those rich people that canceled their things enemies.
Okay, let's talk about it. Some say that the damage to the Olympic was actually way more severe than is what is pictured or anything that is told.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, the White Star Line issued a writ, and I know we are in America, but in British, it's essentially like they were suing them for the money. To come over on September the 21st. So literally the next day, they commissioned that writ onto Commander Blunt to recover the cost of the repairs. And of course, the Royal Navy in turn was like, we're just going to do our own inquiry into this collision, and it was normal practice, but military. Mm-hmm. Only military testimony was called to evidence, and therefore the collision was blamed on the Olympic, stating faulty navigational equipment, even though they believed that the vessel was part of the suction effect. Do you know what that is? So you got a big ship, you got a small ship trying to pass, and sucked right in because of the wake and everything. So this ruling, however, ensured that White Star Line couldn't collect any insurance on fixing the Olympic, making her a money pit, because it was going to cost a lot of money to fix her. But not only that, she had only been out for 3 months. Do you think they had spare parts at that point in time?
These were brand new top of the
line ships, the best of the best. No spare parts were available because they hadn't even done that. They were still trying to get Titanic out. But you know what was sitting right there in the same dry dock with all these parts that they could fit and maneuver onto the Olympic? The Titanic. So it said at this point that once they found everything going on, that the Titanic's parts were then taken to the Olympic and used to fix it. One of which was a propeller. And everybody uses the 401 stamp on the propeller at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean right now to say that that was the Titanic. But if that propeller was fitted onto the Olympic, is it the Titanic at the bottom, or was that the one propeller, the one we can see that was replaced with Titanic's parts? So at this point, It is important to note that the Olympics repairs were supposedly done by November 20th of 1911. She was placed back in rotation, but she could not exceed 20 knots because of the damage to the engine from the flooding that occurred because of this. This caused her to list to port. That means essentially she sat like this. So, after multiple passages of not going over 20 knots, on February the 24th of 1912, the Olympic supposedly ran over an unknown and unmarked underwater obstruction, as evidenced by a huge shudder that vibrated through the entire ship. However, it is said that the captain, who happened to be Captain Smith, of the Olympic was able to cause the Olympic to vibrate at will simply by increasing her speed over 20 knots, which the passengers wouldn't have felt. But they felt the shudder. So, now the story was that the Olympic sustained damage to her propeller once again, but she was able to continue and complete her journey back to England relatively smoothly, which begs the question of, was the propeller truly damaged? Because I don't know how much y'all know about boats, but if one propeller on a 3-propeller ship is damaged, you're going to be doing this. You're going to be shaking, and they're going to be fighting.
You're going to feel it.
You're going to feel that, passenger or not. You're going to know something's not right with the ship.
Right.
So, an inspector also found at this point an additional amount of underwater rivet failures once she was dry docked for the propeller repair, meaning she was not ready to be placed back into rotation until March 6th of 1912. But it is rumored that the ship that sailed from Belfast in Ireland on March 6th was not the Olympic, but the Titanic, disguised as the Olympic, because she was brand new, and the Olympic already had a standing. So they decided to sink the Olympic on her maiden voyage, or sink the Titanic on her maiden voyage, but she was really the Olympic because it's costing them too much money.
In this way, they can collect insurance.
It's true.
So before you get any other thoughts, the arguments for it. The Titanic originally had 14 portholes. It's evidenced in pictures that were taken when they began to build them. At the time that she was ready to depart, she had 16 in the exact same places the Olympic had her 16 portholes in. But the 16 was not in the original plans. It was in the original plans for 14. They were evenly spaced out, and then when they added the other 2, they were in the exact same spots that were not evenly spaced that the portholes were on the Olympic. Then there was a survivor, Lawrence Beasley, who also happened to be a science teacher who noticed that the Titanic was listing to port. But she's a brand new ship. Why would she list to port? There's no reason for her to be sitting like this.
Mm-hmm.
But the Olympic did, because she was wrecked. So, it was also very, very hard to find crew that was willing to work on the Titanic, even though Britain was in a huge coal strike at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And all of these ships ran off coal, to the point that the Olympic had closed off 2 of her cabins to carry coal back in. Now, we're in West Virginia. You bring coal in here, these white walls are going to be black.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not going to get the smell out for years upon years upon years. So if you were planning on having this luxury ocean liner for years upon years upon years, why would you take 2 of your best cabins and fill them with coal? Would you not store that under deck?
I mean, you store it where you use it.
Yeah, not on top.
I just feel like a business person is not going to take this money earner to bring back something that's going to cause that much loss. Because you take 2 of their first class cabins away for coal, and a businessman's going to be okay with that?
Coal is not as valuable as the cost of that room.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a cut right there, a huge, significant.
So are they hinting that the reason why it wasn't stored below deck was because they knew that it was going to be leaking?
They didn't really give a crap to roll in those rooms because they weren't planning on using the ship any after.
They were planning on sinking the ship.
They were already planning on switching the ships. So why does it matter that we're taking this money away when we're just going to have the Titanic roll out as the Olympic with these 2 rooms that are going to be nice and brand new? It's like we never had coal in them, they say. We cleaned them, they say. But we all know coal don't come out that easy. Not within months' time.
No.
So, at this point, like Andrew said, there were also many high-profile last-minute cancellations, including that of J.P. Morgan, who was the owner of White Star Line, and many of his friends that were scheduled to go in there. However, in the other opinions, his personal guests, John Jacob Astor IV, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus, who were also the rivals to the Federal Reserve that he wanted to place, did not cancel, and they were invited there as his very best personal guests.
Eliminate the competition.
Yep. Killed.
Not only that, the Californians...
With a T.
Kill them dead.
So the Californian was the ship that was off in the distance that noticed the lights. We've all heard this story, you know. Think of that Californian and think of how odd its behavior was that night. Everybody just knows that it was a ship that was out in the middle of the ice field and they had docked, but why were they even there? She was a passenger-less passenger ship whose only cargo was 3,000 woolen blankets and jumpers.
Well, didn't think of that. I didn't think of that.
And then, like we touched on, the wreck shows the stamp of the 401 on the propeller, but it was the same one supposedly replaced on the Olympic with the parts from the Titanic. And it's also said that the letters M and P can be seen on the side of the wreckage, where the TITANIC was. This might not seem like a big deal unless you think of how the letters were made. They were cut out of the iron and then placed in place. So if there's an M and a P behind the Titanic letters, it was bore out essentially and engraved in there before the Titanic letters were put on. The only ship they had that had an M and a P was the Olympic, right beside of each other. And then theorists also claim that the wreck on the bottom of the ocean appears to have a gray undercoating. And artists would know more about, you know, things like that and things, but the Titanic used a black undercoating for all of her paint. Gray was never used. Not only that, there's supposedly tiles that are laid around the ship, but they were the tiles that were in the staterooms of the Olympic, whereas the Titanic supposedly had carpet. And how easy would it be to take carpet and lay it on top of tile to make it look brand new, because you don't want to try and buff out all those scuffs and things. Now, people do say that that 401 stamp is evidence of the Titanic because it was Titanic stamped from the yard in Belfast when it left. Everything from the Titanic was supposed to be stamped with that 401. The design differences on A and B decks would also be noticed. The first class A deck on Titanic was enclosed in a glass screen but was open on the Olympic, and Titanic's wheelhouse was flat at the front and the Olympic's curved, whereas Olympic's B deck had a first-class promenade and Titanic had private verandas and suites. The Olympic did have a very long career. She was old reliable in World War I, carrying all kinds of things for Britain, and she was retired and scrapped in the 1930s, and no one mentioned seeing anything out of the ordinary from any of the pieces that came off. They supposedly were all stamped 400, which was Olympic stamp sign, and everything was A-OK. Now, it's also said, and I'm only going to say this one sentence, I don't want to go too much into it because honestly, just not me, but it is said that the captain of the Titanic, Edward John Smith, was a Freemason who owed a debt to the order, and the order required a suicide mission of him that he was willing to participate in the deception. I did not go down that rabbit hole, but I will put that information out there.
That's the whole series right there.
Yeah.
Wow. People in black robes showing up at the door.
So,
they don't wear robes, it's aprons.
And like I said, that's one thing that was stated on one story that I read. Now, I will say I do recommend, I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, but there's a book. A guy named Gardner wrote it. It is what this theory is 100% based on. It has multiple chapters. It's 156 pages long. You can go to scholar.google.com and look it up and find it 100% free downloadable if you want to dig deep into that.
The question, though, is if it was the Titanic or the Olympic, how did it really sink? Did it hit iceberg?
Intentional to look like an accident.
did it get shot with a German torpedo?
Well, the left side of the ship that was damaged that you're getting that theory from, maybe not a torpedo, but some people believe that there may have been a smaller ship on that other side that it rammed into. But if a ship that big hit a ship that small, surely we would find the ship that small somewhere on the bottom of the ocean too, right?
Listen, it's a kamikaze boat.
Yeah.
You never know, man. I mean,
but then again,
we wouldn't think that, well, I mean, this didn't happen at the same time period, but you wouldn't think that there would literally be a country taking probably $400,000 jet and saying, it's a great idea to run that jet straight into that boat. But it happened.
Yeah.
So they dropping 2 nuclear warheads. So
now they asked for that. Yikes! Yikes! Sorry about that. So
Mark here.
Don't fact check us. But so I mean, that just asks the question: is with the Titanic? Was it the Titanic? Was it the Olympic?
I believe it was the Olympic, and it was all due for insurance fraud.
I mean,
a lot of that.
I feel like
it had to do with insurance fraud with J.P. Morgan.
Well, even to this day, and up until the 1960s, people in Belfast, Ireland, taught that the Titanic was sank as an insurance scam in schools. And if you ask anybody, supposedly from Belfast, was the Titanic the sank? That's how you know it was the Olympic, because it was the most widely known, well-kept secret.
So what do you think?
I think it was the Olympic. I mean, governments and stuff like that and major companies have done less.
I mean, at the time, J.P. Morgan was part of the elite, and we know how the elite operate.
I mean, his company is still pretty prevalent today.
I still bank through Chase, which is a J.P. Morgan bank.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they own just about all of them.
And, the loss of life with the Titanic was not intentional either, is another theory. It's stated, like I said, the Californian had all of that on there with no passengers on a passenger ship. I mean, what passenger ship is going to go all the way from England to New York with no passengers on it?
Yeah.
I mean, and all they had on there was 3,000 woolen blankets and jumpers.
Rescue equipment.
It's rescue equipment. Plain and simple.
You're going to need cold water, you're going to need blankets to stay warm, you need jumpers, new clothes.
And the guy that was doing the radio supposedly forgot something, and they got off course and they were 12 miles out when they should have been less than, because they were the ship that was sent to save everybody. Because J.P. Morgan also owned that ship. So,
amazing how that works out.
I feel like he could have done it for the insurance and then took the opportunity to hope that the other 3 would just go down with the ship.
Yeah.
The 3 guests.
Or they could just mysteriously.
He wanted to collect the insurance on the ship, but the 3 that stayed on the Titanic was just a bonus, essentially.
Because it was literally not long after the Titanic sank and those 3 were gone that any opposition he had to the Federal Reserve was gone. And I mean, we see where we're at today with the Federal Reserve. So,
here we are. Credit scores and all. So, hope you guys enjoyed that little dig into a couple different conspiracy theories. I know we've hit on it several times, but we just want to do it a little bit different here. We just want to thank our guest here, our brother Terry, his wife.
Appreciate y'all.
Thank y'all for joining us.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll touch on it again here. The T. Higgins jersey finally looks better than it did. New wall art here, provided by these people here. And with that being said, we appreciate you guys. We're an hour and 3 minutes in. We hope y'all enjoyed every bit of it. But that was top level content from the lower level. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aliens.
Aliens.